yeah, my name is Cyril. I'm part of this project called Shanzhai Biennial. I'm just going to define it as a project for now. I have a lot of information to show, so I'm just going to stream it and then we can talk about it later on. Hopefully it's interesting and not going too fast. That's the main topic of the talk, but it's going to be much more simpler than that. I want to talk to you about Shanzhai culture, which is sort of a next level form of appropriation and post-counterfeit creative endeavor coming from China, but that can be figured out through many aspects of contemporary culture in China, but also in the West. What is Shanzhai? So it's been qualified recently as the pop art of China because specifically they encompass all those attributes of popular culture development that you can see later on. I'd like to point out just the Robin Hood character. You can understand that a bit later. So yeah, what do we want to figure out about Shanzhai? It's actually a message coming from the lower class of the society in China. So picture art workers who create iPhones every day and who don't have actually the ability to buy those iPhones. So Louis Vuitton bags, for instance. So what do they start from with the same creative ingredients and trying to reproduce and redesign those objects for themselves? It's transnational because, as you can see later on in my talk, it just exists pretty much all over the world, and translucent in the fact that, to my own understanding, it's sort of a shadow industry, almost like the mafia or weapon trafficking. I mean, it's much cooler than that, but it's yeah, it's an invisible market, and it's assimilated to counterfeit, so it's obviously illegal, right? Reversing the mechanics of capitalism, it's interesting in that sense because it's about creating contents and products, but there's also, of course, you'll see later on, there's more humor and there's a deeper dimension than just creating products, goods, and selling them, and message from the east to the west. So that's what Shanzhai means. Shanzhai means little mountain chalet, mountain refugee. So it goes back to the time where the warlords would stockpile goods and retire. So that's the metaphor of Robin Hood again. It's stealing capital to spread it in different ways. So that's when just the lowest class acquire those cultural capitals to redesign it for themselves and spread it to their family and so on. So that's the origin of the word, which you probably have heard of. This aspect I don't think anyone here would know, or maybe there's other specialists, so to speak. This is the main component of the Shanzhai spirit called ega, so which you can simplify as irony, and very often defiance towards like upper social class. So again, it's a message going up the social ladder. That's an image from Shanzhai Biennial #1, our first campaign. I'm going to go back to that. So what is Shanzhai Biennial? Yeah, that's how we joke about it, because for a biennial, we've had already 3 biennial in 2 years. So, I mean, the last one was already a year ago, so we are late on the 4th one, but I'll come to that later. So it's not a biennial, it's not a geotag, it's not a brand. And Shanzhai is not Shanghai and it's not Shenzhen. So people always get it confused. They picture out like a specific location. That dreamy picture is actually Shenzhen, where the phenomenon started. So that's also why it's confusing. Shenzhen is very known for the high-tech industry. So Shanzhai started with counterfeit phones or every sort of electronic products. And then it spread out to a much bigger sort of creative genre. We'll go back to that later. That's how we've been quoted in the press. So just giving you a couple seconds to read that very quickly. So we are neither of all those sort of concepts. We're neither a fashion label or an art project or a magazine or an exhibition space or a biennial, but we're sort of all of that on art. I'm just going to play a little video from Shanzhai Biennial number 2, was showed at MoMA PS1, which you'll see later. This is a mockumentary we've created. I can comment about it at the same time. Could we have more volume, please? Much more volume.
播放4个月，然后向大家宣传这个山寨的这个东西。可能很多美国人也都不知道什么是山寨，然后通过这个 video 它传达的一个理念，可以让大家明白山寨的概念是什么。
The Shanzhai Biennial has put the city on the map. There was nothing before.
We're creating a fake storyline.
Style， 然后他们就是融合。
It's become the destination for all of Asia, truly.
So we're basically a brand that only creates product and image to advertise the own brand. The brand is the only product. Everything we create as collaterals is just
like to introduce today Wu Ting Ting, which is a conceptual artist involved with music and writing in the genre of appropriation.
So lies, rumors, visual propaganda, all those elements are for us like storytelling.
And in Shanzhai, she's huge. Everyone's talking about her. It's like you'd be surprised how little we know in the West about what's going on there, but it's really massive, yeah.
The cultural scene in Shanzhai is really exciting because there's such a phenomenon. There's a lot of communication and information in a lot of the stuff that's being produced there that is really easy to, understand.
It's not the idea of one person or one genius. It's this place where everything that's happening ends up getting distilled into a pair of sneakers.
So you can see the difference between what I've been explaining to you and what we put in the mockumentary.
我是第一次做这样的
Those are like side contents
在纽约
again
觉得很激动，因为
go
我
around
以
the
前在
aura
中
of
国
the
没有
project
做
we've
过
created.
跟艺术有关的活动。
I'll go back to the contents of that video, Shanzhai Biennial number 2, a bit later. So yeah, more seriously, that's how we picture ourselves. We're not trying to be a Shanzhai project. We're a brand of it. So we're trying to encompass every aspect of it and study it and push it further. Yu Minjun is one of the most famous Chinese artists and is also one of the most copied. So that was the starting point for our first campaign. It was produced in 2012. 2012, and exhibited at Beijing Design Week and in several magazines. That's how we launched our project, with like a lot of like photoshopping and creating those like visual images with real Shanzhai clothes we had collected for years, or some were faked. Again, so we started creating the aura of the brand and pretending we would be able to offer, and suddenly the demand rose. Everyone wanted to buy those clothes, but those clothes were never available. They were only here to advertise us, the brand. So those images were diffused online, virally in selected publications, and they're all relating. That's the launch of Shanzhai Biennial in Beijing, where it was a complex design by the Chinese artist Ai Weiwei, and we sort of hijacked the opening reception by running this long red runner with angles to go directly to our building. So basically everyone would just go straight to come see our work. And then you would arrive with like the regular like step and repeat with all those logos and stuff. So it's like really this process of this big, opulent, Chinese looking ceremony to end up in front of a store that doesn't open and which would just display our campaign. So it's full on like brand power and brand value that we pushed. And you can see logos we worked on, and sometimes we stole. Or, so Egao, which is the spirit of irony mixed with the Chanel perfume, Egaoist. So what we've established is that Shanzhai is not counterfeit, because counterfeit is basically trying to reproduce reality. So you can't you don't have enough money to buy this Louis Vuitton bag, so you're going to try to buy a fake one to pretend that it's real. Shanzhai is totally different. It just introduced this sense of irony to bring you somewhere else. So creatively, in the sense of the design that is created, graphic design or the patterns or so on, it opens like exponential creative dimension. I'm going to show you a selection of projects, of products from Shanzhai, so you can really get the humor, I guess. So yeah, a quick selection of memes. I'm going to go quite fast on that because I don't have much time. Electronics, it started in Shenzhen. You can see those Marlboro phones, iPod phone, SQ and Y. So it's always like funny logos, funny play on words. Sometimes it doesn't mean anything, sometimes it does. Sometimes it's accidental because several factories worked on it, they made a mistake, they're not used to Roman letters. Sometimes it's purely intentional. But again, it's to appropriate this whole like dimension for themselves, to have their own ability to own their own very cool objects. You know, it's personalized, it's tailored. The garments are the most famous. This Chanel sweater is sort of a hit. A good Shanzhai product is going to mix several aesthetics at once. So this is Kung Fu Panda, that sort of animation for kids, and the Chanel logo with a Coca-Cola font. You know, those sort of like really weird leggings. Louis Vuitton say XL, like the size XL. Adidas becomes Dad, you know, shoes for kids. McDonald's shoes, I guess you've never seen any of those, right? Windows belt. So it goes really, really far. Every brand becomes like subject of analysis, and you know, why not wearing like McDonald's shoes? It's kind of hilarious. Products, Google toilet paper, Cola beef, I have no idea what that is. Wikipedia baguette, you know, quite interesting too. Just because for the, you know, the love of collection, I would say. That is more rare and more interesting. Hong Guang she's like a media person and publisher, and she's compared to Oprah Winfrey, sort of, in China. So she has this very funny personality, and she commented on the genre by making all those fake covers of magazines. Bazaar, Bizarre, Hell instead of Hell, Vogue and Vague. The pop stars also used, so lookalikes are hired to perform in areas where they wouldn't have enough money to have the real ones. This is a phenomenon you can see in other cultures, but here they actually really pretend that they are those people. And that was the starting point of Shanzhai Biennial number 2 that you've seen in the previous video, which I'm going to show you now. So on this video, there's like 5 levels of appropriation through that sort of Shanzhai process. That song is Sinead O'Connor, an original from Prince, Nothing Compares to You. Could we have some volume, please? Thank you. So we couldn't find a version in Chinese. We find it on an obscure blog. It's like some sort of weird singing person singing it. So we had one of our assistants who spoke Chinese write it down in Chinese and hold it to the model. So the model would sing Chinese from a text that didn't really relate to the reality. So you can see that's the second level. And then later on, we gave that text to a real singer who made their own version. So it's like using a Google translator 5 times, and you know, it's like totally opposed to the starting point. And of course we were trying to like embrace this idea of like the Chinese musical, which is like really big. And it's a node to her dress, which is a Head and Shoulders bottle. Shoulders with an R. A. The video is quite beautiful. Maybe I should not play the full thing because we don't have so much time. Unless I can extend maybe a couple minutes, if that's okay. It's available online if you want to see it. That's the bottle of shampoo. Also cultural activities, which are, again, you can find this idea of like defiance toward like the state and, you know, like sponsored events. So they have their own fake national spring gala and Olympic torch relay, and it was not so easy to find documents about those. But if you read Chinese, I don't, but I'm pretty sure that it's written the Shanzhai, Olympic torch relay and so on. Artworks. This one is like very obscure. I'm not even sure what the artist statement means, but this is like purely like fake, appropriation of art. You've probably recognized the most expensive artwork ever. In recent history, was Damien Hirst Diamond Skull. Whatever that means. Fast foods, okay, that's, logos are like a big thing in Shanzhai, so that's obviously the easiest thing to find. I'm not sure about, the quality of the food, but gas stations, more rare but quite interesting, quite subtle. This could be counterfeit, but it's actually a little different. Of course, there's no much irony, but it was fun finding this example. Entire cities, but mostly it's brands. So, for example, this entire shopping mall, which only facade was designed just for the publicity to attract customers. So you have all sort of Cartier, Standard Chartered, Air West, Knanel, and so on and so on. So quickly, some of the most famous brands. We've been looking at Shanzhai for a long time. Obama, this like handsome black man, has been like really admired, so he's everywhere. He's like a real hero. And I just found out that there was currently a Chinese Obama who plays in Kung Fu movies. And he speaks fake English, which is kind of interesting. I just learned about him really recently. Then Angry Birds became a big thing. Very quickly, the best Shanzhai clothes you find are often for kids, because I would expect Chinese mothers to try it a lot on their kids, and sometimes maybe for themselves. So a good Shanzhai product for garments will have like several levels all mixed together. This pyjama, for example, is a mix of the Calvin Klein logo and maybe Kmart and maybe Angry Birds. This one is Angry Birds and McDonald's. Again, Calvin Klein and Angry Birds. So it's like if you have to buy a T-shirt, why having one brand on it if you can have 10? It's Frozen. Okay, that's very recent. So Frozen was such a huge success, as you know, that the current soundtrack for the Winter Olympics is like a pure copy of the melody. So it became a huge thing. Disney is like considering suing, but how do you sue China? Good luck with that, And those are like other examples of like Disney products we've been collecting over the years. Those sneakers, I have them. They even have a website. It's like really pushing the image of a brand, except that the brand, there's no website, there's no office, it's like pure. It's physical, but it's everything that's behind is virtual somehow. And of course, the biggest brand ever is Apple, which is also the biggest contemporary brand. So you would find everything from like the Apple toilet, the Apple perfume, the Apple suitcase. I have all of those except the toilet. The lamp. It's endless. I also have like some clothes who say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's saying. So I think like maybe in like some like they consider that Apple is a company that makes a lot of money, so an Apple is like healthy, so a healthy company. There's something that is really inspiring. So yeah, as a conclusion, imitation is a sincere form of flattery. When you look at Apple, success emulates success. So a good, strong brand is going to help creating a strong Shanzhai brand. It might have a political message or it might not. It's pop for sure. It's purely, sort of a punch in the face. And even if it's political, it's not at the same time. Capitalism because it's about goods, but at the same time it's centered towards their own community. And the mixed message because basically it doesn't mean anything at the end. So what I'm going to try to emphasize on is like how much China exports globally. We have seen they're much harder to find specific Shanzhai products all over the world. So quickly in the West, in America mainly, all the kids recently, since a couple of years, there was like this big logo mania where people like streetwear labels would like change the logos to make something funny, which is a bit different from Shanzhai, who doesn't go for the funny logo topic. I think Shanzhai is really more of an abstract process. It doesn't need to mean anything. This is a bit ha ha ha. But it's the same sort of spirit, except that it's probably for like richer kids, I guess. Even the teenagers who buy those, they don't work in factories. Same subjects. You have Omis, Ain't Laurent. There's a message, which is never specifically the case with Shanzhai. I should say quickly that this era is sort of ending. It was the past few years in like street fashion, in Western culture, was really about that. Now you can feel that slowly it's going somewhere else. The industry, the high fashion industry, was inspired by that. So now bootleg is cool, the fake is cool, fake culture is cool. To the point where Versace asked the rapper MIA, who came out with bootlegs as an inspiration, to create new content. So Versace's design have always been copied. Now it's Versace that copies the copies. So those that copy must copy the copies. It actually works, what she's saying. It's not stupid. Jeremy Scott always been in that, appropriation of logos. I don't know how he deals with it with several companies, because he's been like using the branded components of like Barbie, of McDonald's. But this is the ongoing pop culture for like high fashion, I guess. This is maybe more interesting. Chanel Lagerfeld was obviously a genius, started exploring that. So for spring, summer 14, he introduced a fake art museum playing with like the visual cliches of contemporary art. And even the bag that became, it's probably a very expensive bag, looks like fake. It's like an art student sort of like trashy bag. So that was a huge success. And the next season, he did a supermarket where the runway was with fake products. And if you know about this story, it's really funny. All those fashion editors who were there tried to live with the products because there was like 200 fake Chanel products, but at the end, security would keep the products. So it was sort of pushing showing the idea behind consumerism. It was sort of genius. So those products were just created for the show. But again, that aesthetic of the fake is everywhere. Oops. So that's my own take on it. But how come an art project like ours can also be recycled through the cycle of inspiration? I'm not saying, for instance, that we've been copied by Marc Jacobs, but from seeing this ad of this Asian girl giggling, wearing clothes that are very similar, bicolor with logos, it sort of gave us the idea that maybe actually what we've been doing, not in secrecy because we've had like publicity, but it's interesting to see how the frontiers between all those creative genres are actually not fixed, So recuperation by the internet. This is one of the most famous Shanzhai products because how cool it is. It's a backpack for kids with Sonic, Obama, and Harry Potter. No idea where it comes from, but if you ask anyone who loves Shanzhai, this is the coolest thing. And now some people have made an Etsy store about it. So it's, the whole cycle is over. That's where I wanted to come to. So when I came to Kuwait, I was like, maybe I can try to find some Shanzhai products in Arabic. And I'm sure they exist. I haven't found them. But this one I found in Marrakesh. And obviously it was tailored for there because I don't think they have camel in China. So that was an interesting situation. Obviously, it's not so easy, but if you find any, I'd be really happy to see them. I have, actually I found some other products I can show you. This is a Chanel sports bag, which is solely in the vein of what I've showed you earlier. I have some Yahoo shoes. So it doesn't need to be a play on logo or looking fake. It's just sometimes an object that shouldn't exist, you know. But that's what makes it really, really cool. I just found those yesterday at the Friday market. This is like a box for a wallet, Bovis, don't ask me. Quality, never good, you know. So obviously they, for your teenage girl, Starbucks t-shirt, why not, you know. So again, this is not counterfeit because we know the original simply doesn't exist, right? Same culture in Mexico. Again, those documents are not so easy to find. I was struggling on the internet, but we know that through the way China export their goods all over the world, those products also exist. And yeah, just to end, I want to maybe separate some like case studies of what I would not consider Shanzhai, because you know I think we've established that Shanzhai was like a funny, poetical, creative gesture. Those examples are just less good because they're humorless and dishonest. They're based simply on profit, so it's just capitalism one way, and they're not, turned towards the community. This guy got really famous last week. He's a French artist, and then he could never get so famous with his art in China, so he started pretending that he was Chinese. Actually, he took a Chinese name and I had like an alter ego, and somehow someone found out. Yeah. A month or two ago, that guy also pretended to be a Chinese poet. This is actually, I'm teaching currently at RISD in Providence, and a student actually made a presentation where she used all of our texts. So it was sort of interesting. I don't know if she meant for us to find out, but that's a work that I've been doing under a different name, Áytem, years ago. It was this huge neon in Miami, mixing the codes of like high consumerism with the fast food industry, and like how both brands were communicating. And somehow recently I found out that someone made t-shirts about it and selling them. So here, you know, there's just like one level stealing, and you know, there's nothing behind. You know, if you steal to create, then it's great. You know, you do something new. This is not the case. Yeah, and that's about it. And I'm just going to show you that little video quickly of this fake lion in a zoo, because they didn't have enough money to have a real lion, so they put a dog and pretended it was a lion.
Take a look at what was supposed to be an African lion.
Thank you so much.
But don't be fooled, it's actually a dog. A Tibetan Mastiff, to be exact, in the zoo's lion exhibit instead. The dog has a fluffy mane and looks a little bit like a lion, but
and of course, if there's any questions of any kind.
Here's why the zoo did it. The real lion was placed into a breeding facility, so employees put the dog in its place, thinking guests would be disappointed.
Thank you.
Want to trade?
Oh, thank you.
Love your and your outfit. Fantastic.
Yeah, the outfit is a fake QR code. I was hoping someone would try to see the talk online, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, big hand.